We're zooming in. Ready? Yes. Like to call a meeting to order. Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Kotick. Resolved that the regular meeting commence at the hour of 7 p.m. And be it further resolved that council acknowledges that we are meeting in the Robinson Spirit Treaty area on lands that have been traditionally used by several Indigenous nations. But we would like to pay special recognition to our closest Indigenous neighbors, the community of Bigdagon Nishnabek and Pic Mobert First Nations. We wish to recognize the long history of the First Nations and Métis people in our region specifically and show respect to them today. All in favor? Okay. Additions or deletions to the agenda?
There is one addition to closed session item 1501, section 239-2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, CAO contract.
You. Any disclosure, pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Okay, approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Kotick, seconded by Councillor Hudson, resolved that the agenda be approved as amended. All in favor? Delegations and presentations. We have a presentation from the Office of the Fire Marshal regarding the review of the fire protection services in the corporation of the Township of Manitowoc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to invite Tanya Roberts, Vincent Liu, and Ryan Tront up to the table to make your presentation. Council does have handouts, but we will also display the presentation on the big screen, and Jolene's just going to get that set up.
Welcome.
Thank you. For tonight, thank you, Your Worship, or Mayor Moffat, members of Council, City of Florence, Fire Chief Kruger, and residents of Manitowoc who are online as well. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide you an update on the OFM review of Manitowoc Fire Protection Services. Just quickly to introduce some of the OFM members that are here today. We have Ryan Tront, Fire Protection Advisor. It will be a resource moving it forward. But for the presentation today, for clarification as well, he did not partake in the OFM review of Manitowoc back in March 2022. We have Tanya Roberts here, the Operations Manager, who oversees and supervises the review. And myself, I am the co-lead or lead of the review itself back in 2022. Next slide, please. For the OFM review here, with regards to the scope, this was a review that was undertaken under the 9-1 of the Fire Protection Prevention Act. I think what the key points on this slide really is about identifying key efficiency and effectiveness of the fire protection services that are provided within Manitowoc, specifically under the scope and perspective of fire prevention services and public education, or what we call fire safety education. In regards to the actual scope, and the letter that was sent on December 14, 2021, we had a number of themes or categories that we reviewed. Those include community risk assessments, bylaws and agreements, policies and operating guidelines, organizational structure, fire safety inspection practices and enforcement, public education, pre-incident planning, fire investigation, municipal interactions, records management, and fire service training. Next slide, please. During the systematic review, we had 8 members of the OFM come in 2022 March, where we took a number of days to review the data, request data, bylaws and agreements, conducted interviews with a number of staff that are present today. Those interviews actually were conducted with Public Works, the administration of the fire department, the deputy, fire chief, the public educator, bylaw, and the former fire chief as well. That was undertaken in the interview. Next slide. The three lines of defense is a perspective that was introduced to this office back in 1983 under the Justice John B. Weber report of the public inquiry into public fire safety high-rise buildings. As a result of traditional approaches, it's realigned from emergency response as the predominant focus of fire service to a shift of both lines 1, which we see as public education, and to lines 2, fire safety standards and enforcement, which is a focus on being proactive. With regards to the Fire Protection and Prevention Act, the definition of fire protection services really is key on fire prevention and fire safety education that is defined in the PPA. Section 3 of the report, which you'll see in, section 3 of our report provides those legislative references that are outlined in this slide today. Thank you. With regards to compliance legislation, regulations, and specifically fire marshal directives, these are of provincial interest that we had undertaken in regards to undertaking the review. Those include Ontario regulations that are specific to vulnerable occupancies, as you can see on the slide, and fire marshal directives specifically to standard incident reporting, and secondly, vulnerable occupancies with respect to fire drill scenarios, observations, and inspections. With regards to the themes, as we see in the slide here, there was evidence that there was a lot of good work that was done with regards to public education. However, there was a gap in the timeframe as a result of our analysis. However, as a result of also the findings of certain subject areas, we found that there were, in this bullet points, an absence of fire risk assessments to assist in developing programs and services. There was an absence of documentation to support any ongoing work at the time of the review back in March 2022. In the report itself, it outlines 15 recommendations. This is to assist the municipality in improving the efficiency, effectiveness of services and in meeting legislative responsibility. Those include, as you can see, the completion of a community risk assessment, ENR bylaw and agreements, fire department policies and operating guidelines, public education alongside with the CRA, the community risk assessment, fire safety inspections and requests and complaints, fire code enforcement practices, fire safety plans approvals, conducting fire investigations, vulnerable occupancies, training and certification, and other departments such as hydrants, working with other municipal departments. I think what, sorry, if you can remain on that slide. I think one of the 50 recommendations, I think one has to know personally is the interactions within the municipality, where I was fortunate enough to see the change back in March 2022, the ongoing and positive welcome interactions between the fire department, public works, bylaw, and the municipal office administration. I think during that time, there was a lot of collaboration, communication, and willingness to work together on fire-related matters. This slide here is tracking a progress template, which we will be sharing with the fire department, specifically with Fire Chief Kruger, on the 15 recommendations that are set out in the report. This template will allow him to track and provide updates to council in regards to the fire department's progress within those 15 recommendations. Next. We encourage the fire department and Chief Kruger to continue to work with the OFM, specifically with Fire Protection Advisor Ryan Trott, as he will be a resource moving forward with the development, with the progress of the 15 recommendations as he moves forward with us. OFM will also provide ongoing advice and assistance of the municipality through this implementation of the 15 recommendations. Before I end up, are there any other additions from this particular panel?
Just wish to take the time to thank everybody for the participation. It was an opportunity for our staff as well. In the team, we had some new team members. We had just returned recently to our regional model, so it was a perfect opportunity to showcase our ability to continue to support communities. We know that there are post-COVID, pre-COVID, lots of challenges across Ontario. Not everybody is built the same, so it allows us to really make sure that we extend our services, recognize the individual needs of communities, and make sure that we're responsive to those needs. It was a very welcomed experience here, working with the council of the day, the administration, and most certainly the new fire chief as well. So I wish to extend our appreciation on behalf of the OFM for such a great opportunity for not only our office, but to continue to build those relationships in our communities, especially here in Manitowoc as well.
Any questions?
Through the chair. This question is just related, like from the report itself. So the OFM was drawn here by media attention, from what I understand. And the reasons for the stoppage of service was health and safety concerns on their part. Did they explain as to what the health and safety concerns were to you guys?
Thank you very much, Councillor, for that question. You're correct in regards to the OFM. They received information from a variety of different sources in regards to concerns. It could be from the public, it could be from council themselves, where we take an active interest and look at it as, okay, if there's something going on, if there's a concern, how can we give assistance? We don't necessarily always get the details, so to speak, in regards to that specific request of yours. And oftentimes it's not really the focus. It's more about if there's an issue, how can we make sure that we're engaged? Again, maybe to flush out what those issues are. In the case of the information that we received, and whenever there's a situation where there's a concern expressed either by the public, council, or whoever comes to us that the fire protection services or the provision of them is been shifted or maybe perceived as lessened, our automatic response is, how can we help? What's really going on? How can we assist? And flushing those out. So I hope that addresses the question somewhat. We are not necessarily privy to exactly what the concerns are. Our immediate thought is, how can we engage and make sure that we're there to support the municipality?
Through the chair, thanks for that. The reason I was asking there is just because like there was health and safety concerns, and then it says when the individuals were interviewed, there was no concerns. So it was just kind of confusing.
That's not uncommon. Again, sometimes how the information may come to us, the source, it may change. And so our focus again is on our administration of the regulations and legislation that are under our purview, recognizing that we are not the lead on occupational health and safety. That of course the Ministry of Labor, but we're happy to steer the fire department or municipality to that ministry for questions or concerns or answers to questions they may have.
Well, thanks for the help and your recommendations.
Very welcome.
Any other questions?
No, it was very thorough. We appreciate you taking the time to come and assist.
Very much our pleasure. And again, continued ongoing support is available. The chief knows that. With the return of our regional model, which has just been in the last 2.5, 3 years, we're very proud to be able to let municipalities in the province know that they actually do have a person dedicated to the region who is their first point of contact to the OFM, and that person is an invaluable resource to make sure that even though it's not whatever the issue is, whether it's their real expertise or not, they certainly know how to get the information and get the resources to the community in a timely manner. It's something that we had previously not had for a period of time. It didn't serve our municipalities well, so we were pleased that we were able to now offer that again and bring it back.
If I may, I just would like to make a comment as well and introduce myself, everyone. I am Ryan Tront. I'm your fire protection advisor for Manitowoc. I cover a long stretch of Highway 17, Highway 11. So I am here for support. I will be that ongoing support if you need. So moving forward, if there's anything you need, feel free to reach out to me directly through Chief Kruger. And as Operations Manager Tanya Roberts said, when you get me, I'm the first point of contact, and it's like a spear, a 3-pronged spear that reaches out throughout our entire organization. So I may not have the expertise and specialty, or have the specialist skills to deal with your problem at the source, but I can definitely be that first point of contact and get through the rest of our organization to help any way I can.
Perfect, thank you. Well, thank you very much for coming. I'm sure once we get through these 15 recommendations, that Manitowoc will be a safer place to live, and thank you very much for all of that.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much, everybody.
Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Kotick, resolved that council has been provided a presentation by the Office of the Fire Marshal, OFM, regarding review of fire protection services in the corporation of the Township of Manitowoc, and further that council appreciates the support that the OFM provided to the Township of Manitowoc over the past 18 months, and further that council thanks the OFM for attending and providing a presentation to council. All in favor? Okay. Moved by Councillor Kotick. Seconded by Councillor Keo, resolved that the minutes of the special council meeting held March 13th, 2023 are adopted as circulated. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Keo, seconded by Councillor Hudson, resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held March 22nd, 2023 are adopted as circulated. All in favor? No petitions. Go over to correspondence. Nothing for correspondence. Okay, moved by Councillor Kotick, seconded by Councillor Keo, resolved that the correspondence item 08-01 to 08-04 be received and filed. All in favor? Committee reports. Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Kotick. Resolved that the minutes of the meeting of the Manitowoc Public Library Board held February 13th, 2023 be accepted as received. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Kotick, seconded by Councillor Keo, resolved that the minutes of the meeting of the Thunder Bay District Board of Health held February 15th, 2023 be accepted as received. All in favor? Okay. Down to verbal update by the mayor. I just want to say thank you to Mother Nature for this beautiful week we've had and to get rid of some of the snow. It's amazing. Today felt like the first summer day. But on a different note, watch for the little ones that are going to be out on their bikes because that's coming. So please be careful driving around town. Okay, thanks.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I think this is the third meeting in a row where I'm thanking the ski hill and the renovation department, but what an amazing year that we've had. As you can see, the rocks are starting to show through the hill, and we are in the process of dismantling the utility trailers that we've used and putting the equipment away. The trailers will be sent back to Thunder Bay in the next couple of weeks. We do have a few stats to share. We're still calculating the exact number of users, but with regard to ski hill rentals, we had 29 rental days and a total of 484 rentals with those 29 days. So that's an indication of how well we did. Looking forward to getting the exact number of users, and we will share that with the public as well. Along with shutting down the ski hill, we're also in the process of shutting down the arena and then gearing up for all of the summer things like the golf course and are hiring our park students and preparing work to be undertaken at the pool. So we'll keep the public posted on that project. And just to advise the public that OGRA takes place next week in Toronto. That's the Ontario Good Roads Association. And we did request 3 delegations, and I'm happy to say that 2 of those have been approved. One with the Minister of Transportation and one with the Minister of Northern Development and Mines. We have 3 grant applications with NOHFC right now, so our delegates will be speaking with the minister about those applications. And then with the Ministry of Transportation, talking about the completion of the project at the Highway 17 rest stop, the sub-patrol yard that is to be constructed in Manitowoc, and as well as the conditions of the highway at about kilometer 44 into Manitowoc. The last 10 kilometers are getting pretty well. So our delegates will pass along that information to the ministers, and we wish them safe travels. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, under business. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Hudson, resolved that council is in receipt of administration report FD 2023-01 submitted by Don Kruger, Fire Chief, regarding Fire Chief's response to the OFM's review of the fire protection services in the corporation of the Township of Manitowoc. You're up, Don.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Normally I come up and just ask if anybody has any questions on my report. I think though this one deserves a little bit more attention, so absolutely, if you have questions, please ask them. I'm happy to answer them, but my intention was actually to go through the report and specifically the recommendations and how we either have or are in the process of meeting those recommendations from the OFM. So
Thank you, please do.
the first recommendation, ensure that process is established to support development of the required community risk assessment. That they're required by law to be completed by July 1st of 2024. The community risk assessment for Manitowoc was completed in May of last year and was updated in January of this year. So I have it available if anybody would like to see that actual document. It's about 15 pages long or so. It's not very long, but you know, based on what I found once I got here, I was able to go through the process and identify some areas that will be considered risk. Obviously, once I've spent a little bit more time here and get to know the township a little bit more, there may be some things that may need to be added to the report, but I'm happy to say that the report has been done and is available now. The next recommendation was to revise our establishing and regulating bylaw. I'm very happy to say that that is done and will be presented to council, I believe, at the next council meeting. The current bylaw that we are operating on was done, I believe, in 1993. So it's in dire need of an update. So that will be presented to all of you in a couple of weeks. The next one, steps to ensure the fire department meets the requirements as set out in the agreement with the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines and Natural Resources. So this particular recommendation has to do with how we meet our end of the bargain with our agreement with the MNRF as far as the municipal fire protection agreement. So what we're doing to meet that recommendation in a couple of different ways. First and foremost was the passing of the new burning bylaw that council passed last month. Obviously, again, it was an updated bylaw. The previous one, I believe, was from 1983, I think, or sometime in the mid 80s. So that bylaw, again, was in need of an update. So that was done through a collaboration with myself, the Director of Bylaw and Airport Services, Marcel, as well as our clerk. So that is now out there, and that is the law of the land as far as outdoor burning. We've also increased our usage of the burn permit system. We're heavily requesting people get a burn permit before they have any fires in town. And in 2021, there was 4 permits issued for the entire year. Last year, I have to say we had over 120. Hopefully this year will be even higher. So that's working towards that end of our end of that agreement with the MNRF. We have also secured grants to have a community wildfire protection plan done. And then I've also secured another grant in order to actually implement some of the stuff that will be recommended in that plan. So we are engaging with the Fire Smart organization in order to assist residents prepare for the event of a wildfire and how to prevent serious damage to their properties in the event of a wildfire encroaching on town. So those are just a number of ways that we're trying to make sure that we're meeting our end of the bargain under our agreement with the MNRF. The next one, operating guidelines and procedures. Again, we did have a number of operating guidelines for the fire department. They were all from 1993. So over the course of the last year, I've updated numerous standard operating guidelines. To date, 37 new standard operating guidelines have been presented to the firefighters. And copies of those standard operating guidelines are left. There's 2 copies in the fire hall for the firefighters to look at, as well as I have a copy in my office as well. The SOGs are put forth to the firefighters during our training nights on Thursday nights. The firefighters are given an opportunity to read them over, read through them, suggest any changes or things that maybe one of them may have thought of that I haven't. And then once that's done, then the SOGs are put forth and included in the binder for all the firefighters to read and follow. The next one, findings from the community risk assessment for our public education program. We have a very healthy public education program since Tiffany Lidster was brought back as our public educator. The report from the OFM noted the gap from, I believe it was 2013 to 2017. 2017 to 2021, I think it was. That would be the time that Tiffany was no longer working as a public educator. She had been up until 2017. She left the fire department for some reasons that I don't need to get into. And one of the first things I did when I started here was invite her to come back as our public educator. And so since that time, Tiffany's been doing a great deal of work. And between the 2 of us, we've been going to all of the community functions and providing public education and public awareness. The next 2, operating guidelines to support effective fire safety inspections and then inspections on complaint. I have done a number of inspections in town already over the course of the last year. I started with areas where people were gathering or sleeping. So all of the apartment buildings in town, the schools, the hospital, started with the churches. And then any complaints that are received are done immediately once the complaint is received. So this will always be a work in progress, this part, because the inspections will need to be done, on a regular basis. But just know that fire code inspections are being done in town now, and there's inspection orders that have been put out for the various properties, and so far compliance has been outstanding, and hopefully that will continue. So the next one, staff having responsibilities related to mitigation of fire safety issues to take the OFM on-demand training. Again, this is always going to be an ongoing priority. I myself have completed a number of courses this year. Our public educator, Tiffany, has completed a number of courses this year. We also have a number of other members of the fire department that are completing training courses either online or at the Regional Training Center in Marathon. So this one will be an ongoing one, but we certainly, we are getting there quite quickly, actually. Next one, operating guidelines, policies, procedures regarding fire safety plan approval process. Again, this was being done somewhat, but not on a regular basis. So specifically places like the schools and the hospital, their fire safety plans need to be updated and reviewed annually. And unfortunately, that was not being done. So that is something that has become a priority. And every year, fire safety plans will be reviewed and updated as necessary. Again, this is an ongoing thing, but we have started the process, and we're making sure that everyone in town or every building in town that needs a fire safety plan knows that they need it, and they're working towards having it. Next one, ensure that the chief fire official meets all requirements regarding buildings containing vulnerable occupancies. So this one was specific to me. When I started here, I did not have the course that's outlined here in this recommendation, but I'm happy to say that I have since completed that course, and so we are now in compliance with this recommendation. Next one, ensure the development and implementation of pre-incident planning. I've started pre-incident planning on a number of different buildings and facilities in town, and those pre-plans are put together, and there is now a binder in each of the fire department pumpers with the pre-plans that are available to the firefighters as they're responding to calls. And if they're needed, if they're responding to a call in one of those buildings that has a pre-plan. So that is, it's done, but that will always again be ongoing as I add more pre-plans to the binders. And as things change, buildings change, occupancies change, whatever. But that now is, we can safely say that is done, and that is processed that will be followed. Next one, inspect color coded. So this is one, this one will be, I will be working with Tyler Brewster, our Director of Public Works, to make sure that our fire hydrants are coded and maintained according to the fire code. Fortunately, all the fire hydrants in town are now functional. Tyler's done some good work on that end. And then this summer, we will have to go out and do flow testing and make sure that they are color coded properly. Right now, the blue discs that everyone sees on the fire hydrants, we don't know if those are accurate or not because the flow testing has never been done. So we will be doing that flow testing this summer. And so people may notice that after that, the discs may be blue, they may be green, they may be orange, they may be red. But that will be done through the proper process and the proper flow testing in order to make sure that the fire hydrants are color coded properly and meet the recommendation and the standards under the NFPA. Next one, investigations. Unfortunately, there was a number of fires that have been in town, including a fatal fire, and there were next to none records on those investigations. So fortunately, we have not had any fires or any serious fires since I've been in town, so there's been no need for that. But rest assured that if we do, that proper investigations will be done, and there will be notes and photos and all that kind of stuff prepared accordingly. Hopefully that won't happen for a very long time. And then the last two recommendations to do with the vulnerable occupancies and the website. So there is a website, the OFM maintains a website for vulnerable occupancies. Our vulnerable occupancy is the hospital. We're required by law to do annual fire drills as approved by the fire chief, as well as an inspection, a fire code inspection of the hospital annually. Unfortunately, this had not been done since 2015, and I am happy to report that the fire drill was done in September of last year at the hospital, and will be done again this September, so it'll be an annual thing. And I did a fire code inspection of the hospital earlier this year, and again, that will be an annual occurrence. And the website, the OFM website has been updated accordingly. And then the last one is with regards to training, and as I mentioned earlier, but the fire code training. Training is always going to be ongoing. But we are working towards having all of our firefighters certified as per the regulations. And everyone that meets specific training has been offered that training and will be taking the training as needed. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Hudson.
Through the chair, I have 3 questions.
Okay.
Well, it's 3 questions that may lead.
Okay.
So for the ENR bylaw, obviously, every 30 years is not a sufficient week to update bylaw. How often are they supposed to be updated?
So there's no set time that they need to be updated. In this case, so. The current ENR bylaw that we're working under, and actually I believe it references this in the report. Mentions the fire marshal. Something or other that hasn't existed for well over 2 decades. But it will depend on changes in the level of service. So for example, right now, we offer suppression and we offer fire, ice and water rescue services. We've talked about, possibility of, say, trench rescue. So if we add trench rescue to a service that the fire department will provide, then the ENR bylaw should be updated accordingly.
Okay.
So it's not a matter of that it needs to be changed or updated at any set time, but anytime there's any kind of a change in service, then it should be updated accordingly.
Okay. All right, so for the second one, the burning permits, it says in there that you want to move it to online, but will they still be available for people to come to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. It's just the online, everything's going online
Yes.
now. And so it just makes the tracking and the record keeping part of it a little bit easier. But yeah, we know absolutely there's always going to be people that want a paper copy. And I encourage the paper copies, to be honest, because then I know that they actually have a copy of the rules. So, yeah.
And so the last question is, so color coding, is that for the flow rates on the hydrants?
Yes. Yeah, so the hydrants should be painted, like not the entire hydrant, so the barrel of the hydrant remains yellow.
Okay.
I know there are some that aren't yellow, but they need to be painted yellow. And then the cap and or the caps need to be painted to the color according to the flow rate. And there's an NFPA standard that outlines what it is in liters per minute or gallons per minute as to how they should be painted and what color they should be painted.
Okay. So is that why the discs are there in place of colored caps?
The blue discs are just because they're reflective.
Okay.
But unfortunately, flow testing has never been done here in town. So the blue discs, although helpful, are not accurate.
Okay.
They may be, but we don't know that.
Until you know, until you get it tested.
So I don't know why the blue discs were chosen. But they may not be active.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? The only question I have is as far as the Marathon District Training Center. Is that something new? Is that something that was expanded? Is that?
So the regional training center in Marathon, it's just the Marathon Fire Department runs a training center in Marathon. When the OFM closed the Ontario Fire College, they went to this model of regional training centers. So there's not even sure how many regional training centers, to say a dozen regional training centers scattered throughout the province. So Marathon received that designation. And so we send firefighters down to Marathon to receive training and get courses faster than what we can do here in-house.
Okay, so is that equivalent to the one I heard of opening in Dryden?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much. I'm sorry I was a lot longer.
No, that was perfect. Perfect. Okay. Okay, and that council receives the report for information purposes. All in favor? Moved by Counselor Hudson, seconded by Counselor Kotick. Resolved that council is in receipt of administration report admin 2023-13 submitted by Florence McLean, CAO, regarding joint health and safety committee, revised terms and of references, and further.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Happy to bring this report forward. When the members of the fire department took their leave of absence back in 2021, they stated that they had health and safety concerns, and despite our efforts to find out what those were, we never did fully understand the concerns. After the review from the fire marshal in March of 2022, we started to implement what we thought would be some recommendations coming forward. And at that time, we, as a management team, talked about appointing a member of the fire department to the Joint Health and Safety Committee, so that if there were health and safety concerns from the fire department, the members of the department, they had an avenue in which to bring those forward. So we proactively brought forward a report to council in 2022, recommending that Gary Abbott be appointed to the Health and Safety Committee to represent the fire department, and Gary was picked from his peers on the department to be their representative. But our terms of reference did not speak to that. So this report brings that information forward, adds in the appointment of a health and safety representative to the terms of reference, so that this will be in place forever and ever. Amen.
Perfect.
And with your support, we'd like to make that amendment to the terms of reference.
Any questions? Okay, sounds good. And that council approved the revisions of the term of reference for the Joint Health and Safety Committee as presented in the CAO's report to council dated April 12th, 2023. And further, that council welcomes the inclusion of a member of the Manitouwadge Fire Department to participate in the Joint Health and Safety Committee. All in favor? Moved by Counselor Keel, seconded by Counselor Hudson, resolved that council is in receipt of administration report admin 2023-14 submitted by Florence McLean, CAO, regarding Joint Health and Safety Committee appointment, and further.
Thank you again, through you, Mr. Chair. The Health and Safety Committee is up and running again with pretty much a whole new slate of members. There was one union position that had not been filled, and so management has been working with the union to put a name forward. And they have brought forward Todd Michael Bajan to represent the union on the Joint Health and Safety Committee. And with council support, we would ask you to appoint him to the Joint Health and Safety Committee.
Questions? Okay. And that council appoint the following staff member to the Joint Health and Safety Committee. Todd Michael Beja, union representative. All in favor?
One second.
Okay, one more.
Missing a resolution. Oops. I'll just ask you to move that. At the top. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Keel, seconded by Counselor Hudson, resolved that council direct staff to formally thank the Superior Country Tourist Association for their excellent efforts in promoting the Kiwisa Ski Hill over the 2023 ski season. All in favor?
I wouldn't mind sharing the report.
Okay, great, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not often that we get feedback from our advertisers about how well an advertisement did, and we're quite fortunate to be members of the Superior Country Tourism Association, and they have a way through Google Analytics to be able to see the number of visitors to a particular site and how long the visitor stays on the site to read the article. And I'm sure that you can appreciate 2 minutes and 15 seconds reading one particular page is quite a long time in social media terminology. Anyway, so late last fall, the township worked with Superior Country to put together an advertisement and an article for Kiwisa Ski Hill. And you can see in the report how well that advertisement did. It reached 70,000 people who saw the advertisement. 2,500 people clicked on the link. About 3,000 people reacted or shared or commented on the post. And that was only in a matter of 1 month. And so the Superior Country decided that although the township had paid $1,000 to have the article written and advertised, they were going to contribute an additional $700 to keep that out running for 2 more months. And I think that is also a reason why we had so much success at the ski hill this year. Advertising pays and partnerships pays. So I just asked Joey to put together a resolution to formally thank Superior Country for acting on our behalf and the great advertisement that was done.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Bylaws? No. Okay, no motions. Okay, on to closed session. Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Keo. Whereas section 239-4 of the Municipal Act 2001 SO 2001 C25 provides that before holding a meeting or part of a meeting that is to be closed to the public, a municipality or local board or committee of either of them shall state by resolution the fact of holding of the closed meeting and the general nature of the matter to be considered at the closed session meeting. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this meeting is hereby closed to the public as the subject matter being discussed falls under the following section. Section 239-2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, CAO contract. All in favor?